All right, and we are live. Good evening, everyone. Hope you've all had a good day. I'm joined by longtime friend of the show, Auce, who is here with me to talk some Bretonians, because I think it's fair to say you've got a little bit of experience with Bretonians. Is that a fair assessment?
I think that's fair. Yeah.
Yeah. When was the most recent time you played them?
This weekend, I played the team tournament in Ottawa, the Canhammer team tournament, with also friends of the show, Rob and Val from Square Based, and Falcon 40K
Mm-hmm.
of Goonhammer fame, as well as her other teammate. It's a really good time.
Hell yeah. I think the only one, the only one out of you three who I haven't talked to is the Falcon, but I'm sure at some point that'll end up happening naturally. Just
Hmm.
seems likely. The longer you do the YouTube thing, the more people I end up talking to. But yeah, so we're here to talk about Bretonia, and I'm not sure if I shared this correctly because it seems like it's a little bit off to a slow start. So let me just link this in. Oh, you know what? If I link this in Discord, it's gonna ruin things entirely. We're gonna go off screen. So you know what? I'm not gonna do that. I know I did link it. We'll just see how it goes. It'll pick up over time naturally. If you are here and you haven't already, do give the stream a like. Helps it get picked up by the algorithm. All the active stuff there, always appreciated. Midlife Dice is here. Good afternoon, chaps. Good afternoon to you as well. Hope you're doing well.
Cheers, buddy.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess we could just go straight into it. That seems to be the best way to do this. Obviously, you've watched a few of these. You know how we do this. But for the channel, we should describe. So the way we do things is we rate things generally the best version of. So I'm not saying, but what about a Baron on foot with a great weapon? Where are we going to put that? We're going for the best version of it. And obviously Bretonians have a couple of different ways to play. So we can talk about those as we get to it. S tier, this is sort of like every army you're going to see this in. It's a tournament staple. A tier is very good, but you don't necessarily have to take it. B tier, it's fine, you know. It might end up in your list, it might not. It's kind of a filler unit. C is not good, but it's not actively harming you. And then F tier is actively harming you. And I'll be honest, I'm not sure there's really anything in this list that fits in there. I think this is a little bit of a top-heavy tier list, to be honest.
Yep. I think you're right.
The internal, outside of Pegasus Knights, the internal balance on this is not awful. It's there's a lot of stuff in there that's playable. It's just that Pegasus Knights are real damn good. Is that a spoiler? I don't think so. I think everyone knows that Pegasus Knights are really solid. I think before we get into talking about the actual units, it's probably worth discussing how good all of the different versions of Bretonians are. Because there's three different ways to play them, and at least two of them are two of the best ways to play Warhammer. Which of the three do you rank as the best?
For me, it's Exiles. You just get so much for like not really that much of a loss, in my opinion. So it's out of this world. And actually, I kind of disagree with you. I think Errantry Crusade, totally fine. It's just the other two are way better. It's like Errantry Crusade, if we're ranking all the armies of infamy and factions,
Yeah.
it's helped a lot by just having all the same units and stuff as Bretonia. So
Yeah, I mean, that is fair. Everything being impetuous is a real genuine downside. I think that is... I'm not sure if that would make it to a tournament in my book if Pegasus Knights didn't exist, but I don't know. Maybe. We'll maybe see down the line if some changes come in. Maybe we just give us as much juice as we want. You know, I'm really looking for those long charge range, but I'm a big fan of Grand Army, and that's more of a playstyle change as opposed to like actively thinking that it's better or worse. I just like the ability to have a couple of wizards in there that are chucking out, you know, reasonable levels of spells. I guess you can do it with the outcast wizards, but I do like the level 4s. Also, the ward save being on at the start of the game just means that you don't have to be as ball to the walls. But if you're playing teams especially, you're going to be pushing for points, so the Exiles is probably just better in that setting. So to be fair, our Brett player is playing Exiles as well, so I can't argue that it's not objectively up there. All right,
James and I have we've talked about Exiles quite a bit. He's asked me some advice, and we agree on almost everything. So I think
funnily enough, Bretonians is one of those where they feel very straightforward. The things that are good seem pretty obviously good, and then the things that you don't bother with are also not in there. On the Fix My List, I do get the people submitting lists quite a lot with different character loadouts. I'm like, You can do that, but there's 2 or 3 that have been landed on that are just really quite efficient. And like, I appreciate people doing their own thing, but yeah, it's hard to go outside of the norm with Bretonian characters because those 2 specific characters are real damn good.
Yep.
Perfect. So the way we'll do it is we'll start from the left, move our way along the tier list. We'll pick one, talk about where we think it goes, why we think it goes there, throw it over to the other person, see if we agree, and then swap over. So as the guest, let's start off with the Duke. What do you think of the Duke?
This is easiest slam dunk S perhaps in the whole game. It is probably the best model in the whole game.
Yeah.
I don't know if there are many others that are in his league. Yeah.
Single models, I think it's difficult to. Like, I could maybe be swayed to Chaos Lord plus Warpfire Dragon as a better combination than the Brett Lord and the Pegasus Knights, but I think that's pretty 1A, 1B, like, as a single solo model, because you can also make it tanky enough. In fact, you do often make it tanky enough that it can just fly around on its own with the Grommel Greathelm.
Yeah.
So we're looking at the virtue of heroism here. You know, so you've got the heroic, the Monster Slayer and the Killing Blow, Lance, Shield, Grommel Greathelm, Syrian's Locket, so you're immune to multiple wounds, isn't it, for Syrian's Locket?
Yep.
Because they've got 2 items that do basically the same thing. One of them's more expensive that gives you Killing Blow immunity. Royal Peg is nuts, I think, realistically, for 60 points. Plus 1 toughness, plus 1 wound. 360 line of sight. Swift Stride Fly. It's just real.
It's got stomps.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It's got Armor Bane.
Is it flat 2?
It's got everything.
Flat 2 stomps?
2 stomps.
Yeah. Yep. 3 attacks as well. It's pretty okay. It's pretty okay.
Yeah.
It's just got a little bit too much of everything. And then obviously the Duke himself, same stat-wise basically as a Chaos Lord. Not quite, you know, it's not got the strength and toughness, but it's got that 5 attacks. It's weapon skill 7. Just a little bit more juice than maybe a single character should be, especially with the amount of upgrades that you can slam on it.
Yeah. With either heroism or knightly temper, it's like among the highest damage output things in the game. What more could you want? Like, you've got 360 line of sight, really, really fast, pretty tough. It's got everything.
Yeah. You know, you could say, oh, but you can't ride a dragon. It's like, yes, but if I Killing Blow the dragon, that's immediately at least 9 wounds for the combat res there on the challenge, which is rough. I've been on the receiving end of, having 2 dragons in combat with the heroic Killing Blow Baron. You get lucky one round and you win the combat, and I'm just going to fall back in good order or give ground, and then the second round of combat comes round, dragon dies, second dragon flees because you lose combat by like 12.
Yeah.
It's pretty rough.
The other thing is you never have to fight the dragon if you don't want to.
And I
you
think
just fly away.
Usually you don't want to.
Usually you don't.
Because it is a gamble. But if you can make the dragon player respect the fact that if you come within a massive bubble, you're probably, you're risking death. You don't really, necessarily die in 1 combat, but over the course of 2 combat, you probably do. There's very little that can stand up to this. The Strike's Last Ogre Blade character is maybe enough to threaten it, but you're immune to the multiple wounds, so even that is not.
He's probably not going to kill you before you swing.
Yeah.
But reasonable chance you die after all the stuff. But again, if you don't want that, then just don't. Right?
Yeah. Yeah, just play smart. It's a really, really solid tool. Also, like sub 400 points, which is wild for how good it is.
Yep.
Also enough points in there that you can just throw a Paymaster's coin on as well if you want.
Yeah. There's also the putting him in a Pega unit with the Banner of Honorable Warfare. So he gets rerolls to hit because your dragon has a breath weapon. There's all kinds of nonsense you can do.
Yeah.
I will say, shout out to the Hippogriff as an option too.
Yeah.
I would never use the Hippogriff, but the Hippogriff is also fine. Yeah.
It's funny how good the Pegasus is that the Hippogriff doesn't get a look in, because it's a monstrous creature that gives you I think it's +1 toughness, +3 wounds, something like that. So it's relatively beefy. It has countercharge. It's just a good mount. It's not a behemoth. It's just a normal monstrous creature. But then you're like, oh, but I've got almost exactly the same, on a roll peg, but also 360 line of sight. So not going to give that one up. But yeah, Duke, absolutely incredible. So obviously we've had one Fighty Lord that's up in S tier. There's no way that Bretonians get two. And then there's the Baron, which I would argue is actually better than the Duke. And I'm talking specifically in Exiles here, because the Frontier Axe character is pretty wild. So
Yep.
we were talking about, and we've kind of alluded to, but the thing that supercharges these characters is the what are they called? Heroic vows, I think they're called. Honorable vows, something like that.
Virtues, knightly virtues.
Virtues, nothing like what I said. Knightly virtues, and it's an additional magic item, effectively, that doesn't come out your magic item allowance, and you can just take whatever. You can't take multiple of them, but for 75 points, you can get hatred and plus D3 attacks in the charge, and this also includes countercharge. And you're always going to countercharge because you have 360 line of sight, and you have the mobility to never be in a position where you can't be caught, which is pretty rough. So you're always getting the hatred and the initiative for charging and the extra attacks. So then you stack on top of that a 30-point magic item that is basically just a better Ogre Blade. Because you have better AP, you lose the armor bane, the damage is flat 2 instead of D3. I would rather have that. I just like the consistency of the output. The fact that you're only weapon skill 6 and only 4 attacks doesn't really matter, because you're re-rolling all your hits and you've got an extra D3 attacks in the charge. The Baron is just nuts if you put it in. And you can do the same with the Ogre Blade if you're in Grand Army, or the other detachment, of which I've forgotten the name, Infantry Crusade. It's just wild how good this thing is, and you can even do, because in Exile, you can't take the Duke. You can only take 0 to 1 Baron as your sort of like top level character, which makes sense thematically.
You can have 2.
You can have 2 at 2,000 points, and you can do an imitation of the Duke, who is way squishier, but I think has actually a way higher chance of proccing the heroic killing blow, because you give it 3 of the, what's the item called?
The heirloom. Lucky
Heirloom, which gives you reroll 1 single dice, which is to hit, wound, armor save, something else in there.
Something like that, yeah.
So you put him in the unit with the reroll hits against ranged units. Dragon has a breath weapon, you charge in, you challenge. Cool, I've only got 4 attacks, but turns out I'm rerolling all my hits, I'm rerolling 3 of my wounds. It's only failed wounds, but as pointed out to me, you can just use a hand weapon, so you're only rolling 6s to wound anyway against the T6 dragon. I think these 2 characters are aggressively not okay for Bretonians.
Agreed. Yeah, these are again, if the Duke is the best model in the game, the Baron's probably the second best model in the game. So
yeah. And they're both so good. I don't even know if the Baron is better. I just think I rate the Baron more highly. I think because of what it can do specifically in Exile.
Frontier Axe.
Yeah. But they're a little bit 1A 1B. Which is your favorite? Just take that one, and then maybe take the other one as well if you can. Because why not? So that's fine. And I'm now confident that we're going to move on to a third character that definitely isn't S tier.
Well, I'm afraid the Paladin is also S tier.
Really?
Sorry.
I actually might disagree with you on this one.
So the Paladin has a lot of the same advantages as those other 2 models have.
Yeah.
He can be in a 360 flying unit. He has access to some of the same broken items. He gets to be a BSB for free.
Yep.
Just cause. So he's 25 points cheaper than most other BSBs.
Which is good, because your character points are squeezed.
Yep. You got access to the virtues. You got pretty much anything you want. In Exiles, this is the best model to hold a Falcon Horn.
Sure.
So by virtue of that alone, it's probably up there in S tier. In Grand Army, you're probably taking one as your BSB, perhaps for the Banner of Honorable Warfare, perhaps for War Banner, or whatever other magic banner you fancy. In my list, I play them on a horse, and I just put them in my Yeoman, which lets them get up to combat res of 7, which is enough to do the whole challenge out of dragon. Yep. They're incredible. Yeah. I don't know. There's not much more to say other than what we said already.
Okay. So I do see some tournament lists without a Paladin, though. Do you? So just on the basis of S is like it has to go in every list. if you can take it. Would you say that that's maybe top of A, as opposed to S tier? When I think
Every
S tier, it's like
okay.
proper game changer. Like these two characters will warp the game, whereas I don't feel like the Paladin has that level of effect.
Every exile list will have a paladin. Um, the Grand Army lists that don't have a paladin is because you're taking your Duke, you're taking your Prophetess, you're taking your Green Knight,
Yeah.
and you don't have any space left. But everyone wants to take this.
Mm-hmm.
If your Green Knight is banned, you're taking it in your Grand Army. Yeah, I don't know. I can't see this any lower than S.
Okay.
It's nuts.
I
Royal
I,
Peg is unbelievable.
I think top of A, but we'll stick it in S. I'm not so I don't feel so strongly about it that I will argue the toss on this one. So that's fine. Paladin, I genuinely thought we were going to move down to A tier because all of the stuff on there, the vows and the magic items outside the Falcon Horde less effective on it, but you make some compelling arguments. Let's move on to some of the magic users. As with as a lot of the arcane journals are now, you can take just more wizards than you initially were able to in the Grand Army, which is, I think, what we all agree. What this game needs. It needs more wizards. That's
yeah. That's one take on it, yeah.
But we're starting off with the Prophetess, and I'm just gonna out and out start the Prophetess off in A. I think it's solid. I think it's decent. I think the laws that it can pick from are good. I think the fact that it has Magic Resist 2 is good. The fact that it gives the unit it's attached to is good. You can put it on a Royal Pegasus, I'm pretty sure, or maybe just a normal Pegasus. One of the two. You can put it in a Pegasus unit.
Yes.
Here's the problem. Bretonians don't always take wizards. So it can't be S tier. Because the other stuff is so good. It's still pretty good, but at the end of the day, it's kind of just a wizard. And with the way Lore Familiar has now been clarified to work, where you can't pick that and also take your signature spells for the lore, I think that is a real knock to Bretonian wizards, because you always want to take the regen spell theoretically, so you can put it on whatever your most important unit is, have them fly around, or that's all great. And if you want to take a spell lore like, for example, Elementalism, you might not roll into your good spells. So quite often you see them just take the Prayer Icon of Quenelles, plus 3-inch range to dispel, plus 1 to their dispel against hexes. Really good, especially for Bretonians. You do not want to get Miasmic Miraged. But I think it's only very, very good, and it's not quite S tier. What do you think?
I generally agree. I think every Grand Army Bretonia list will have a Prophetess for the most part, like almost every single one. Exiles can't take this, so sucks to be Exiles. I think likewise every Errantry Crusade army will take this.
Yeah.
Pretty much everything you said I agree with. Lore Familiar is less appealing, but if you really want your TMP or your whatever spell lore you're going for, that's the way to do it. And then the regen is good. The Lady's Wrath is also good. But I would pick Plague of Rust TMP over those most of the time. So TMP less important in a Bretonia army because you can already move wherever you want.
Sure.
Because you're flying 20.
True.
But it's still really good. So.
Yeah. But what about the models that aren't the 10 or 11 Pegasus Knights you're bringing? They might want to, fly around the board as well. You got to give them some options. But yeah, so are you happy with sort of top of A? Does that feel all right for you?
Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, we're off to a good start, and the change that I made, where now I put them in order of, as much in the order of the book as possible, so characters then infantry, just because I don't have time to do timestamps. Starting to regret that a little bit for Bretonians specifically, because all of their really good stuff starts in the characters.
Is up there.
Yeah. So we're off to a good start. But what do you think about the level 2 wizards, the damsels?
Level 2 wizards are in a tough spot in Old World right now. I've tried a damsel. I don't think I would continue to try a damsel. She can't ride a Pegasus. She can take a unicorn, which is kind of cool. But the kind of key feature of the Prophetess is that Royal Pegasus, right? So it's a killer to not have that, and then compounding on top of that, all the normal problems of a level 2. She does still give MR, and she does still give magic weapons, which are both very useful. So there is some utility there. I almost never see this. So
Yeah.
for me, C at best, probably.
Yeah, yeah. Again, so this is a little more harsh than I'd maybe go with it. I could see like a level 2 with the Lore Familiar just to be like a fireball, Pillar of Firebot. I think that at baseline is okay. But this is Bretonians. And we've already got 4 characters that we're at S or almost S. So I guess it's very hard to justify putting that in the list anywhere. So you probably are kind of hurting yourself a little bit by putting it in. I don't want to put it all the way down to F tier. Because I don't think
it's not an F.
No.
It has purpose. There's a point to it. It's just outclassed by other things. So.
Yeah. No, I think that's fair. You can take damsels in exiles, can't you? You can take damsels and outcast wizards. So you could theoretically run 6 wizards, but you're only running level 3s and level 2s, so that's not particularly appealing. But they're cheap.
Yeah, but
shame they can't take a lore with a good signature magic missile. Then maybe I'd think about it.
The outcast can, but not the damsel.
True.
The outcast with demonology.
Yeah.
I've done that once or twice, but
with 3 spells, I think that's almost enough that I'm just like, I'll just dry roll into battle magic because I'll probably get what I want.
Yeah.
Especially if I take 3 of the fuckers.
That said, I think I didn't have like any of the ideal 3 spells with battle magic with my outcast wizard on the weekend in any of my games. So it does hurt, but it's fine. So
that'll happen to you. But yeah, no, that's fair. I think Damsel not actually bad, but just I can't see you ever taking it in any actual list. To be fair, which is fine. It's not an awful place to be in because if the game changes around, maybe we see them more. Then we've got the Sergeant at Arms, and I really like the Sergeant at Arms because it's a cheap source of another stubborn or similar to stubborn for your big block of men at arms or human at arms. You just put more versions of it in, so you've got potentially the Grail Monk with the triptych. You've got their own shield wall, I think it is, on the unit, and then you've got the Sergeant at Arms as well. So you just layer as many different ways to cause problems. And also it's a 2-wound character that you can just throw onto the dragon once your other 2 characters have already died. I think this is, in my eyes, a solid B tier unit. I think it's aggressively okay. Are you want to put it up in S tier?
I love the Sergeant at Arms for all the reasons you just said.
Yep.
That said, I've never seen anyone but me take this ever.
Okay, but is that just because it's difficult to fit in points wise as opposed to it being?
Yeah. That is the case. But as a counterpoint, if we're comparing just the Sergeant at Arms straight up, if we compare it to a Paladin, a Paladin is 15 more points and has better stats in almost every regard.
Yep.
It doesn't have the Peasant's Duty to get the pseudo stubborn bonus.
Sure.
But otherwise, like that is what it is, right? And then the Paladin has all the advantages of being a Paladin. So I struggled to find a place to play this. If I was going to play it anywhere, it's probably in an exile army. Because I want to have multiple units of Yeoman Guard or something to that effect, or a cheap character to put my Ruby Ring or something. It is reasonable. It's just I don't see this ever. And if the game changed, maybe, but because it's not useless, it's just outclassed. Yeah, I would have it in C with the Damsel.
All right, top of C. I'm saving my veto for one that I feel strongly about. We haven't come across one yet, and I don't know that we will, but I'm just banking it. I'm gonna give you away until something I feel passionately about comes across. But yeah, that's fair. So that puts it to you for the Green Knight. I don't know if we need to talk about the Green Knight. It can probably just go straight in F, and then we move on, right?
Yeah. It's banned, right? You can't use it anymore.
Yeah, F. Get the fuck out of my game. It's
it's the green tier, so
that's
perfect,
true.
right?
I think it's F for fundamentally broken. Because it just does things that I don't think are healthy for the game. But it's your turn, so I'll let you wax lyrical about how fantastic Another F for
gosh.
fantastic.
Again?
The Green Knight is.
Again? This model breaks all the rules in the game. It's a skirmisher.
Yep.
I think everyone's heard this spiel so many times, but let's go through it one more time. You can show up on turn 1. You start in reserves. You can charge the turn you appear.
Yeah.
You appear in any natural, difficult, or dangerous terrain on the board, which
Yeah.
is, on most boards, there's at least a few. That usually means you can turn 1 charge something. You're ethereal, so you ignore the terrain. You are causing terror. You don't have Swift Stride, but that's okay because you're speed 8, so you can still have a reasonable threat range.
And you're in your opponent's deployment zone.
Yep. Yeah, if they don't have any way to stop you, yeah, you're just in their zone turn 1, messing them up. And then arguably the silliest thing about the Green Knight is if you do manage to kill him somehow, on the following turn for your opponent, on a 4+, they come back and you've done nothing.
That's not true.
So,
they've lost one of their wounds.
yeah, that's fair. But in terms of points on the board, you got nothing to show for it. And it can be like a travel option for the Green Knight to suicide himself and show up somewhere more relevant, right?
Yeah.
So I've had that happen so many times. It's a really silly model. In terms of impact on the board, it is very powerful. Like, it forces your opponent to do some things. I would say it's probably just below the power of the Baron and the Duke.
Yeah.
If we were ranking it that way. But I'm happy to leave him down there because F for Green Knight.
I think we should put it where it actually goes, which would be realistically there. This is part of the reason that, especially for the first sort of 6 or 7 months, you saw a lot of Bretonian players just not running wizards at all. They're like, I'll just take 3 combat characters. You can't cast spells on all of them. And also, I can theoretically just appear behind you and kill your wizard with the Green Knight. What are you going to do about that? Be sad, was my answer. As a great weapon on my Lord Enjoyer, I'm not a magic weapon fan. I understand that sometimes you need them, but I'm just like, but the points efficiency of a great weapon, it's so good. This bugger is my nightmare. And some of my most painful losses have come to the Green Knight.
Yeah. As one kind of final nail in the coffin, a very important strategy with the Green Knight is against an enemy dragon. And this is how exiles with the Green Knight generally play against dragons is. Your goal is to engineer it so that you have a unit with some combat res and you have a Green Knight and they're both fighting the dragon and the Green Knight challenges the dragon, thus nullifying all of the dragon's attacks, all of the dragon's stomps. And if the character has magic weapons, he can attack, but otherwise no.
Yeah.
And then your opponent's dragon is now, down at X combat res, where X is the number of your unit, and they're double outnumbered most likely because your unit is probably more than enough to do that, and then you get to chase them down. And I did that twice this weekend. And it was pretty cool. It was cool for me, but
pretty rough. What's worse is if your opponent doesn't have a magic weapon, you can just flank charge it, and you will tie combat every time. Or you might win because you might do some damage.
If you
the Green
do
Knight
wounds,
still gets to do damage, which is honestly rude. I think ethereal units shouldn't be able to deal damage to non-ethereal units. Change my mind.
People should just be able to hurt them, like just with some penalty.
Yeah.
It should be hurtable, but at a disadvantage, not immune.
I think that's super reasonable. Of course, almost every ethereal unit in the game would have to be rebalanced around that.
Yes,
with the exception
100%.
of one, the Green Knight. Fuck that guy.
Yeah, he's fine as this. Yeah.
All my homies hate the Green Knight. But I have heard a little bit of a shameless plug here. UKTC is going to be up and running next season, which is sort of September onwards, and I believe that they are just straight up banning the Green Knight. This is the tournament circuit that brought you Green Knight can come out of hills, so I think it's a little bit of a like, you know what? Nah, we're going to atone for our past sins. People will have more fun without having to play against that. And while I'm not really here for comp, I'm not also going to argue very hard against that.
Yeah, same here. I generally don't like when people ban stuff, but coming from a video game background, when there's a Meta Knight in Smash Bros. Or whatever, you got to ban it, right? So what are you going to do?
When you've got that one sort of just like outlier that's so... it doesn't even have to be necessarily so good, but it's so like abusive as a play pattern. I'm like, you know what? Yeah, I can live with that going away. That's fine by me.
Mhm.
All right. Well, we have picked up nicely. So if you are here, you haven't hit the like button, please do. Would appreciate it. Helps me get picked up by the algorithm. All of the YouTuber fun stuff. There is a Discord down below. At the end, I will post a link to this tier list. If you want to post your own, it'll be in the tier list maker channel on Discord. And if you want to support the stream, you can do so becoming a member underneath as well. I feel like after a year and a bit in, I should be better at doing that, and it still feels incredibly wrong. I think it's just I'm too British. Anytime you like ask for support, you're just like, oh god, I hate this. But we'll move on. Lady Elise. This was, and it's funny because at the start of the edition, when all of this stuff came out, I was so not in tune with what was going to be good. Because I looked at this and I thought this was out and out broken. And I think it is very good. I think it's a very solid character. And if all of the stuff in S tier didn't exist at the level it did, you'd see more use out of it. But Lady Elise, she is probably the best magic defense in the game aside from one magic item that Chaos have, which is in every Chaos army.
With maybe
Infernal
one or
Prophet.
two exceptions.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Just double. So she just any double 6 to dispel from her auto dispels, and you
Any
take
double.
a wound.
Any double.
Sorry, I meant yeah. Any double 6 that'll always dispel.
Not double ones. Not double ones, but yeah.
Oh,
otherwise
that's
you're
true.
good.
Any double from 2 through 6. Yeah, any double disclaimer with some tweaks. But yeah, she's great. She's on a Pegasus. I think she's only level 3.
Unicorn.
Sorry, I meant unicorn. I said Pegasus. Yeah, she's on a unicorn, which is inconvenient, honestly. But she has moved 10.
Very convenient.
She's T4 with 5 wounds, which is aggressively fine. She just has like a whole host of special rules, almost all of which don't matter at all. Realistically, she's a level 3 wizard from elementalism that gets +1 to dispel, and the double to dispel roll apart from ones is an auto dispel, and your opponent loses a wound. I would say for me, this is a B tier unit. While
Really?
I think you struggle to fit it in, I think you could make an argument for putting it in over one of the regular wizards if your meta is super spell heavy and all you're worried about doing is dispelling their threats.
Yeah. I rate this pretty similarly to the Prophetess. The obvious downside is you can't ride the Pegasus.
Sure.
The upsides are, as you said already, the dispelling. She can also take more than one signature spell, which is
That's
nice. So she can take both of those nice Bretonian ones if you want. Yeah, she's nifty. Like I like her. I think B is fair.
Yeah.
I see her less than I see the Prophetess. She can't join your Pegasus Knight units, so that is a big sadness for her. But with all of the stuff you can do with the Shield of the Lady, voluntarily going to the back rank stuff, she has some use. Yeah, I like her. I think B is fair.
So would you have put her in A before I said B tier?
Yep.
Yeah, we can.
Just
we can
because
go
I
there.
think-
I think I undersold her because I thought you were going to be less for her because you just never see her. But I think there's no harm in putting her up in A, probably behind the Prophetess, but not far behind.
Definitely behind the Prophetess. Yeah. I do see her. She's in like some fraction of the Grand Army list. Obviously, if you could take her in Exiles, you would take her in every army list, but
Sure.
you cannot. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. Well, nice and easy. Finally, we've come to a bad character. Whose turn is it? It's your turn. You get the joy of talking about Cecil Gaston.
oh my goodness. As far as special characters go,
Yeah.
he's like got some reasonable stuff going on. It's just the issue is he's on foot.
Yeah.
So most of the characters in this game, if you can take them out, you should.
Yep.
And in some cases, it's like if you don't, you're hurting yourself. So this is kind of like taking a Baron on foot, which is definitely hurting yourself. So I don't know. He has some interesting abilities that you can't really get anywhere else. But
He's a second source of Monster Slayer. That's got to be
Yeah.
something.
Yeah, it's not nothing, but
Yeah.
generally his Monster Slayer is a lot worse because he's going to be getting charged and
Yeah.
then likely getting squished by the dragon. So
Yeah, he has Slayed by Monster as a special rule, which is just he's an
True.
infantry model that falls over. Um,
Yep.
I guess you could put him if you wanted to go for some sort of weird list where you go for a Pegasus Death Star and then just like a big infantry Death Star and maybe some artillery. You could have him in there and just be like, oh, you can charge me with your dragon if you want to roll that die. You know, I won't fight you on the first round of combat, but what about the second? You know, see if we can do something there. I still don't love this guy.
Yeah, he's. I've never seen him in a list. I think I don't. I think even if the game changed pretty significantly, I don't think we would see him. So
Yeah.
I think he's a C.
Yeah.
He's not useless. Like his things kind of make sense and they're interesting, but they're kind of just outclassed by the other stuff he can do.
Yeah. So he does have the Exile's Vow, but he doesn't have to be put into
An Exile's
Exiles.
Armor.
His rerolls would apply. Would his rerolls apply? Is Veteran the majority of the unit, or is it? I think it's majority of unit on veterans, isn't it? So you can
Yes.
just put him into a big unit of men at arms and use him for rerolls to psychology.
Yeah, correct. He
Sure.
would get to. Yeah, he would get to use his. Oh no, never mind. No,
Yeah.
it's just straight up no.
If you could buy magic items for him, if you could give him the Falcon Horn, you'd probably see him in Grand Army.
I mean,
Just because
maybe.
Yeah, you'd get the rerolls on it. But
Yeah,
no.
I guess. Yeah.
Cool. So, do you think he is actively hurting you to the point of being down in F tier, or do you think he's a C tier? Just there aren't points for him in the list.
When you put it that way, probably an F, because if you're taking him, that means you're not taking a Baron or a Prophetess.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah,
Maybe
I
F.
agree. I think if he didn't cap the number of barons you could take, he could probably sit here, but just down to F tier because he's stopping you from taking one of the best units in the game.
Yeah.
It's hard to justify. Speaking of one of the best units in the game, he is something that's aggressively okay. Outcast Wizards. I think they're fine. I like how cheap they are. I don't like that they're only level 3. Don't love that. This limits them. It does get them to the better, dispel range. I think you take them because they are the only thing you can take as a source of wizard for exiles, but I don't think you're excited about it. I think you can take them in Grand Army, but you just don't see people doing it. Oh no, you can't. Okay, that's fine. I thought it was just because they were bad or worse than Prophetess. I think you can.
They're bad. Sorry, I was gonna say they're bad in the moral way. Like they're evil people, so they're not allowed in Bretonnia. Yeah.
Morally flexible. I think they're like aggressively fine. To me, they are sort of the archetypical B tier unit. I can see them; they do a job, but I'm not super jazzed about them. Maybe you go 3 all battle magic or all demonology just for the magic missiles. Give 1 ruby ring, give 1 the flame strike wand, and just go. I'm going to do some firepower to you, and then have an okay time with that.
Yeah, that's pretty much exactly how I feel about them. I will say it's interesting that their untutored Arcanist rule, which makes you roll 3 dice and discard the highest result on a miscast, is oddly kind of an upside sometimes because the high results on the miscast table stop you from casting or dispelling further spells.
Yeah.
Whereas the low ones are all just you blow up. So sometimes that works out in your favor if you really need to cast or dispel more spells that turn.
Sure.
Especially if you're taking multiples of these. If you want to play your triple Outcast Wizard army, you can do that. I've done that once or twice, and it's kind of fun. Another nice thing you can do with them is if you put them on a horse, you can join them to Mounted Yeoman to take advantage of reserve move.
That is pretty good.
So it's something.
Yeah. Keith and Ironbound in chat are both big fans of Steed of Shadows, being able to buff up a big unit of infantry and fly them around the table, which I respect. I mean, you're casting that spell half the time. I think it's casting a 10 if I remember correctly. Steed of Shadows.
I don't remember off the top of my head.
Yeah, it's been a hot minute since I've had to cast that spell, but I think being a level 3 caster, you've got a lot of scope to mess that one up.
Cast on a 9.
Oh, 9. Oh, okay.
9.
I can get behind it on a 6. I think that as the game stands is funny and kind of okay, but not game breaking. It's not one of the strategies I'd expect to bring to a tournament, and that strategy is of course Pegasus Knight. classic strategy. And that takes us to the end of the characters, which makes something of an F on the screen there, which is where we've put the entire Bretonian faction in F, because how dare they have fun. We are now onto the infantry, the cornerstone of any Bretonian list. So why don't you tell us about how fantastic Foot Knights of the Realm are?
So I'll preface this by saying, I think I've seen it once or twice, so that's not true. I've seen them before, and there's reasons to take them, so they're not complete nonsense. Foot Knights they have the classic problem of a old world infantry unit that's a little too expensive, doesn't quite have the punch to kill stuff, and it's not fast enough to get to what you want it to get to. They do have a little bit of upside. So in Grand Army, they've got a ward save, which is really nice because you can get a 4+ armor and potentially 5+ ward save if the enemy attacks are strong enough, which makes them like uniquely pretty tough for a core unit. Like there's not many core units that have that out there. They have Furious Charge, which is kind of cool. If you actually do get to charge, it does a little bit of damage, especially with the great weapons. In Exiles, they get Stubborn, which is also very good in Veteran. So taking them in any way that's not as a minimum unit, I would probably not recommend doing, because they just kind of suffer. They're easy to kill, they're slow, and all that. As a minimum unit, if you really don't like Knights of the Realm, you're obligated to take a unit of Knights of the Realm either on foot or on horse. The foot ones are cheaper, so if that's all you're looking for, that's an option.
Yeah.
So I put them in C. If you want that, they're available too. It's there. Like if you really don't like the Knights of the Realm, you can take them as a 5-man unit and just sit them at the back of the board, or sit with your bombards or your trebuchets, whatever you want to do with them.
I think I would squeeze them up to B, because as you point out, the 5 model unit is the absolute best way to get Knights of the Realm into a list that doesn't want to have Knights of the Realm. I think if you're playing those sort of big blocks of men-at-arms, where you're just going for big sort of points null aspects in the unit, just taking 5 of them is absolutely fine. And they defend artillery not terribly. Not super well, but you've got to take them. It comes out of core. So I think I can see bottom of B, just because they do a job that is worth putting into a list, which is not having to pay 150 points for actual Knights of the Realm. You seem to be muted, buddy.
Oh, sorry. I said fair enough. That's fine by me.
Yeah, perfect. I think it's bottom of B, top of C, but B's looking a little skimpy at the moment, so let's fill them in there.
Sure.
Men-at-Arms. This is one of the 2 big bricks of infantry that you might take, and you'd only take these because you're playing Grand Army and you're not playing the Exiles list. They are cheap. They are a very cheap unit, a good way to get up to that big magical combat res 7. They do have some fairly major downsides in that they are weapon skill 2. And weapon skill 2 sucks. It doesn't matter that you're hitting things on 5s. It matters that you're getting hit on 2s. So I'm going to put them at sort of the bottom of B, just ahead of Foot Knights of the Realm, because I think in Grand Army, sometimes you might want to take them. I'm super underwhelmed by basically all of the actual knights in Bretonia, which is really sad. I'm not really impressed by any of them, and that means that the cheap infantry is better. But I think, would you say sort of towards the bottom of B is fine, and then we talk about why Yeoman Guard is so good, as opposed to, Men-at-Arms, which are very mediocre?
I am fine with that. I will say, Men-at-Arms are the envy of a lot of other factions out there. Like Empire wished I could take Men-at-Arms. So I feel like it kind of just goes to show like the strength of some of these other units, that this unit that would be perhaps the best core unit in other armies is perhaps the worst core unit in this army.
How many points is a State Trooper for Empire? Is it like 7?
6.
Is it? Oh, it's 6. So it's only 1 point cheaper. Okay. But you are, you're a human with your strength and toughness 3, your weapon skill 2. They do come with polearms, which is cool. The ability
which
to
is
have
another point for Empire soldiers. So
Yeah. I mean, I think with the way the game is at the moment, it's a fake point because you're always using them as spears as opposed to ever wanting to use them as a halberd because you're never getting to attack with them. So you may as well just.
Oh, I
use
meant for
this.
Empire. Empire pay a point for their weapon.
Oh, sure.
Men at Arms
Yeah.
don't. Men at Arms don't.
That's pretty rough. So it'll be 7 points with a spear, which is kind of the equivalent. 2 points doesn't get you a lot, I will say. Obviously, comes with a second unit champion.
You lose. You lose stuff. The Men at Arms have all that stuff. They've got Warband. They got Horde. Peasant can be an upside. Like Levy can be an upside sometimes. And then the second unit champion's great. Yeah. So.
Cool. So in the context, oh god, no, Men at Arms are 4 points. I misread the leadership.
Oh boy. There you go. I've never actually taken Men at Arms.
So cheap. Oh, I think I want to leave them in B tier. I'm going to move them to the top of B tier at 4 points a model. That's kind of criminal. It might even be A tier.
They're better than Foot Knights.
Oh, yeah, that was never in question. They started above Foot Knights and then they just moved further up above the Outcast Wizard. We may have to move them up to A tier, but I think the reason that I'm not keen to put them up there to start off with is because of Yeoman Guard, and I know you are a Yeoman Guard enjoyer.
I am. Yep.
Tell me why.
So for all the same reasons we just said, we like the Men at Arms. They have all of that and more. They've got the key number of weapon skill 3, which means aside from your top tier lords, you're only getting hit on 3s. They've got Veteran, which is huge. It's like insanely huge. They've got Shield Wall, which is really good. They've got a pit better leadership. Yeah, what more do you want? And they're only a point more. Unlike the Men at Arms, they do have to pay for a polearm, but as you said, in most cases, you're going to take the spear, sometimes the halberd if you want.
Yeah, you can just have one of the weapons for free, the halberd or the thrusting spears. Or if you want to be greedy and you can't make up your mind up, you can pay. Normally it's a hand weapon you get for free, and you can upgrade to something as good as a spear for a whole pointer model. Basically getting that spear baked in is pretty nuts. And as you say, just far too many rules. Also, just the fact that they have 2 unit champions means that they're basically undead. Combination of shield wall, veteran, so you're probably not running away from terror. There's just so many overlapping rules that make them a pseudo undead unit.
Yeah, it's among the best infantry units out there that aren't either undead faction.
Yeah.
They don't kill a lot of stuff, but they rarely die and they rarely fully run away. They're a great way to add combat res to your army if you want it. So
they come in with, didn't even mention, they come with a 5-up armor save just as stock. For that cheap, that's kind of wild. That's a disgusting level of resilience. Like if you compare them point per point to a Knight of the Realm, which has twice the armor save, but 3.5 times the cost. It just makes sense. Why would you ever take Knights of the Realm if you look at that one very specific stat?
Yeah.
Perfect. So A tier, I think, for those we were saying.
Sure, that works for me.
I mean, we don't necessarily do super in bracket, but would you say before or after the Prophetess? I feel like just
probably after the Prophetess.
But
yeah, probably
Lady
after.
Elise.
Sure, that sounds fine to me.
I think this may be getting too granular because I think it's all kind of just real good, but that looks fine for now. And that takes us to Squires, which I like the concept of more than I actually like. Now that Scout has been clarified to count towards, if you have Scouts and your opponent doesn't, or you have more Scouts, whoever puts the last Scout down loses the +1 to go first. I guess in Grand Army that's not much of a downside, but they're not.
Yeah, you don't care in Grand Army.
They're not coming out with your core allocation, so you're like, Exiles can take them as core, I believe, which is.
I don't think so, but I think it's the Mounted Yeoman they get in core.
That might be what I'm getting confused with. I'm sure one of it might be Errantry Crusade that can take them in core. Yes, Squires.
I think you're right.
Yes, the long forgotten Errantry Crusade, and that makes sense from the flavour of it. And they do have to take 660 points worth of core in Errantry Crusade. So in Errantry Crusade, probably Probably an A
Not too
tier.
bad.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, they're the best in like for them, the best in class core throwaway 5-man scout unit you can get. So
Absolutely. And they're aggressively fine. They have, pretty decent rules. They start off with, you've got 7 points for a ballistic skill 3 model. They've got skirmishers and vanguard, which is just good, so you don't even have to pay for scout. You can pay to give them fire and flee, which is just really nice to have. They're very similar to the Empire Archers analogy, which before the clarification to how scout worked was made, I rated Empire Archers very highly, but I think just if they don't come in core, I struggle to care, is the reality.
yeah, Exiles, I wouldn't take these because the Briggins do kind of what they do, but better.
True.
Infantry Crusade, I could see it. I've only played an Infantry Crusade army a few times, so not my cup of tea. But yeah, otherwise, I don't think I would use them. So I'm looking at C for them.
I think so. Top of C, but, if you're playing Errantry Crusade, if you're one of the 3 people, whack them straight up to A tier.
It's ambitious, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's skirmish core that can scout or vanguard. I think they're, some of the better things you can do. I guess maybe you want to just take loads of Knights Errant and play as aggressively as possible. So maybe it's B tier for that, just because of how the list wants to play. Perfect. And we're speaking of bowmen. We've got peasant bowmen. How do you feel about peasant bowmen?
They're good. Not a ton to say about them. They're again probably like one of the more averagey units out there. They're quite cheap. They usually don't panic your stuff when they run, so you're not like afraid to lose them. Their banners don't give up points for the trophies of war, which is like a nice little fun thing. You can just give them a 5-point banner for fun. They're fun to like fill up your core with. Yeah, you have to take at least one peasant unit, so
you do. You can give them skirmish, and they provide heavy cover to your Pegasus Knights, while allowing the Pegasus Knights to see through in case that dragon does get real aggressive on turn 1, and you just want to have the option to charge it. I think these things are great. I would probably go as far as putting them in A tier, because you have to take a unit of peasants. This is sort of the go-to in my eyes for most armies who have to take a unit of peasants.
Oh yeah, I would say in almost every Bretonian army you're going to see a unit of these likely. That said, in game they're not doing a lot for you.
No,
like they exist, but yeah.
I've had Bretonian players tell me that they take them to deal with enemy skirmishes, and they're running like 4 units of 10. I'm like, I guess theoretically that maybe works, but I just feel like dice-wise you kill like 3 skirmishes a turn if you're lucky. Maybe I should sit down and do the maths at it, because as soon as you're adding more modifiers, the -1 for shooting at skirmishes, any long range penalty, heaven forbid you have to move to get line of sight on them. But yeah, so I think for how cheap they are, the fact you have to take them, A tier feels fine. Speaking of something you don't have to take, we've got Battle Pilgrims. And this is something that I would say actively does harm your chance at winning. I think Battle Pilgrims are pretty horrendous. I believe one of the lists does let you take them in core, right? Is it Errantry Crusade?
I don't think so, but maybe I might be wrong.
Yeah. Even if you can, people don't.
You can.
Yeah.
You can. Yeah, Errantry Crusade can take them as core.
Which I think maybe part of the reason we don't see it is because you don't necessarily see Errantry Crusade more than anything else, but I'm super underwhelmed by them. They are so expensive. You start off with the Reliquary, which is 65 points for 6 wounds, which is, basically 11 points a wound, which is very expensive when you can run, 4-point men at arms or 5-point yeomen at arms. You are still weapon skill 2. You do have some good rules in there, obviously. You've got stubborn, which is nice. Technically, you've got hatred all enemies, because we're really looking for those peasant attacks to come in. The Reliquary itself, I believe, is the last thing to be removed, so you're always going to make some attacks back, but those attacks back are absolutely terrible, so it doesn't really matter. But most importantly, you're capped at 30, so you can't even run like the Death Star to kill God in core in Errantry Crusade, which I think would be the interesting way of maximizing it, where you just go like, this is the safest way for me to make a huge points denial brick if I just stack all of my, non-Pegasus Knights points into this. I am super underwhelmed by this thing. Am I missing anything?
It is unbreakable as long as the reliquary is alive. So that has a use in and of itself.
Yeah.
That said, I just don't know if this is something you really want to take in your army. I just don't see like again with the Errantry Crusade, if it's
Yep.
core, your core is not doing a ton for you anyway. So it could serve some kind of role of just a unit that won't run away. Being capped at 30 hurts because you would love to spend all of your core points on this unit, or as many as you could. I I would say if you're taking this as a special unit, it's probably an F because that means you're losing out on some Pegasus Knights, you're losing out on some other good special or rare choices, or you're losing out on characters, which is the big one. In a unit in an army, you can take them as core, I suppose. Like it's probably not actively hurting you. It's probably like about as good as your men at arms, or your squires, or your archers.
Yeah. Yeah, I think if you were playing Errantry Crusade, you could argue it would maybe be a B tier choice. But then again, Errantry Crusade feels to me I've put a brick on the accelerator, and Jesus take the wheel. We're going to find out what happens. One of us is going to be dead in a pool of blood at the end of the game, and this doesn't really line up with that playstyle at all. I think it, in that case, harms your ability to do it because you're paying 250 odd points for a full unit of them that is just going to sort of sit in the middle of the board, not easily give up points, but then not do much either.
Yeah, pretty much. Can't see this any higher than C. If we're honest, probably F for most scenarios. So
yeah. Orwin says you can make Battle Pilgrims unkillable if you want, too wide with the reliquary in the front which can't be harmed. Also, I don't know if that works, but also you wouldn't be able to charge, and you would have basically no static combat res. So when you inevitably lose combat and give ground, your opponent would just be like, "Oh, that's bullshit. I'm just not going to follow up." Sucks to be you.
I also don't think that's really how that works, but yeah.
No, I think you would probably put the wounds into the unit. But maybe if there was ever a game where you wanted to just do the silliest thing possible, maybe that is how that works and it needs to be looked into. We have come to the most interesting unit, though, in Infantry, and I know it's one that you enjoy. I'm not super sold on them, but tell me what you think about the Briggins.
If you asked me before January, when scouts were not kind of neutered,
sure,
I would have said they're a solid unit. They're like a B. The reason for that is they don't cost a drop if they're scouting, and they provide some of that element of a unit that gets in the way. It provides some element of like small arms fire to deal with like models like Razor Gores or like low or no save models that are kind of troublesome for you. They have the ability to take the Ruby Ring on the champion, which is actually quite useful. It's a convenient way to put a Ruby Ring into your list if you've spent all your points on characters already. The weapon options are interesting. Most of the time I was running them with Blunderbuss. I've tried it with pistols a few times. I tried it with crossbows a few times. They're like, as far as like skirmishy infantry go, they're fine. They do have impetuous, which is annoying, but if you're running with crossbows, it doesn't matter much. If you're running with the blunderbusses, it matters a lot. I would say like these days, probably low end of C. It's got a point. Like the purpose is if you really want a Ruby Ring and you don't have room for it in your characters. The downside is now it is a drop.
Yeah.
And it's not more Pegasus Knights or more Bombards or whatever. So, yeah.
All right, cool. We did agree, turns out. I thought we were going to... One nice thing is they can be crossbows with skirmish with a 5-up save, and you only have to pay for shields for half of them because they have Motley Crew.
Yep.
So that's kind of cool. That's something. If you could take them in core, that would be actually pretty exciting, even without the Ruby Ring. If I could take skirmish and crossbows with like a shield costing me half a point a model, I'd be like, you know what?
Yeah.
Let me think about that.
It also is one of the cooler units in the game from my perspective. I love Dogs of War. I love being able to customize my units and have whatever I want. So that hits home for me. But in terms of on the board, I think that's where they should be.
Perfect, yeah, that works for me. And finally, we've got to the end of the infantry, which, as we all know, is the most important and exciting part of Bretonians. I guess we've got to talk about some horses, which are fine. Who likes horses if they're playing Bretonians? Doesn't appeal to the, you know, the play style ideal at all. But we've got Knights Errant, and I started the edition quite high on these because they're cheap. And as time has gone on, I found myself not only underwhelmed by them, just underwhelmed by all of the core, or all of the non-Pegasus Knight cavalry for Bretonians, unfortunately. As it goes, I think they're probably, yeah, they're worse than Knights of the Realm. I think I rated them higher than Knights of the Realm in a previous tier list. I have changed my mind on that. I would say that they are probably a C tier. You don't have to take them. You lose a lot of rules. I mean, Knights of the Realm have counter charge, and they both have first charge. But yeah, it's mainly counter charge that you lose. The weapon skill,
And the weapon skill,
yeah, as well, which just is sad. Worse leadership also, and
then of course Impetuous. Impetuous is the big one, right? So
how could I forget? If you are playing Errantry Crusade, they have a place because everything's impetuous anyway, and you're going to stack rules on top of each other where you're like, let's just make them more impetuous and go further.
You got to take them. They're obligatory in Errantry Crusade.
Absolutely. So. But Errantry Crusade is the C tier detachment of Bretonia, and I think it's fair to say that they are down in C. Or would you go more harsh? Would you put them in F tier?
Well, I'm going to be honest with you, and this might be where you have to put the veto. Unless I'm playing Errantry Crusade, I would never take these ever. I think you're harming yourself because Knights of the Realm are just better.
Yeah.
So I think probably F.
I'm not going to veto that. They can live in F. Yeah. That's aggressively fine as far as I'm concerned. Knights of the Realm, though. Knights of the Realm do have some compelling reasons to take them. The first of which is you have to. Yeah. Tell me about Knights of the Realm.
Knights of the Realm are, everybody's core heavy cavalry unit. It's like very similar to a lot of other armies out there. Reasonable weapon skill, low strength, low toughness, decent leadership. With the blessing, they're a little more resilient than some of the other ones out there. They have the two key rules you want. They've got counter charge, they got first charge. They've got finest war horses, which is nice every once in a while to reroll a key charge dice or flee and so on. That said, here's another one you might drop the veto. I hate these. I think these are really bad. Every time I have them on the board, I'm just hoping and praying they don't die. Because they die a lot and they do very little.
If you are exiles, they gain rules to become just as good as Empire Knights. And isn't that appealing? Because, oh no, hold on, you don't get drilled.
No, you don't have drilled, which is the key. We should talk about the Lance formation. We should talk about the Lance formation a little too.
And how it actively harms you?
Well, I mean, I think it's kind of a wash. It has advantages, it has disadvantages. In terms of maneuverability, you're a lot more maneuverable when you have Lance formation. So that counts for Knights of the Realm and Knights Errant.
Yeah.
However, there's a lot of problems with Lance formation. Namely, anytime anytime a charge doesn't go the way you want it to, you're going to get bricked and end up feeling really sad when you get blunted. The blunting rule also causes a lot of rules headaches, so it's like arguably not worth it on those grounds alone. And then the other main concern is, if you're fighting bolt throwers, cannonballs, what have you, it's a lot easier to hit you. So
yeah, and so Lance formation gives you +1 as if it was close order to combat res, and you can get rank bonuses as soon as you're wide enough to get that rank bonus. I think they could have just said, like, you just get rank bonuses for like each rank past the first. I don't think I'd be upset if a Lance of Knights gave you +2 combat res, and that was just like Bretonia's kind of thing. Especially now everyone is in base to base with them. So if you charge into a unit with multiple attacks, even though only one model is touching them, they all get to make their full round of attacks. Even if, your unit is, like, somehow you're down to only 3 models and you're technically still in a Lance. So normally you'd only have 4 or 5 models in base to base with you. No, the whole line of 30 Dwarf Rangers that have somehow been given Frenzy they all get their second attack into you, which is it's pretty sad. Pretty sad. So do you want
Yeah.
me to see to you?
Yeah, you have to take them.
Yeah.
So it's either these or the Foot Knights. I do think they're better off in Grand Army than they are in Exiles.
Sure.
The ward save helps them a lot. Veteran and Stubborn is nice for them too, but there's so many things out there that are licking their chops to get at this unit to try and take their points.
Yeah.
If I can put them in reserves and leave them until turn 5 in meeting engagement, I often do.
Yeah.
That's the pessimism I have for these. I'm sure some people out there like them.
Yeah.
It doesn't fit what I'm trying to do here.
Sure.
So.
I think I'm going to choose to put them in B, but behind Foot Knights of the Realm, because Foot Knights of the Realm only cost you 55 points, whereas this unit here, realistically, you want to take like 8 with a War Banner if you want any hope of them doing something at all, which is...
Yeah, I'd have them ahead of Foot Knights, but otherwise, yeah,
okay,
that's about it.
Yeah, I'm fine. Yeah. You've played a lot more Bretonian.
I see them more often. I see them a lot more often than I see Foot Knights.
Sure.
So by that virtue alone, I think they're more popular and more usable. So.
Sure. It definitely appeals to my playstyle more to just put the small unit of Foot Knights of the Realm in. But I think that's a super fair call to put them in ahead. So, whose turn is this? Who gets this treat? I think this is me. I get to talk about questing knights. So, what are the best things about knights? Well, they're pretty heavily armored, right? You've got a good armor save. That's great. We love that for knights. And also, because you've got a good movement, you're going to be getting the charge, which means you're going to be hitting your opponent before they get to hit you. What if, instead of those bonuses, we took all of them away? And instead, we had a worse armor save, because we only have our... heavy armor and barding, so we've got a 4-up armor save in combat, and we were stuck to using great weapons, so we lose our initiative bonus. They're also initiative 4. They're just better initiative than Knights of the Realm, just to really rub in the fact that they are only ever going to be striking at initiative 4. This unit makes me so sad. They also can't take a Ruby Ring of Ruin. It's 25 points of magic items. If you could put a Ruby Ring of Ruin on this unit, I'd be like, sure, maybe I'll take 5. I still don't want to do it, but, I could see potentially a unit that's 140, 150 points. And whatever. That's an expensive Ruby Ring that maybe does something. I hate these things. This unit makes me actively sad.
There's not too much more to say on these guys. These guys have their fans, but...
model-wise, they're incredible models.
Yeah, they're not bad. I'll say that. But... on the table, it's a special unit. It's not your good stuff. So by extension, same as some of these other units we have in F tier. I think you're hurting yourself by putting them in your list. So.
Yep. Yeah, I think so. I've put them right at the bottom. They are the most F tier unit to ever F tier, in my opinion. They are worse than everything else we have on there. We have a nice, pleasing 4x5 square currently, but let's ruin it by talking about Grail Knights. What's the role you see for Grail Knights?
Grail Knights are a decent place to put your Prophetess on a unicorn.
Sure.
Are in a lot of ways similar to units like Chosen Knights, similar to Blood Knights. They're heavy cavalry with a little something extra. Their something extra is that they've got the Lance Formation, they've got the Lady's Blessing.
Sure.
They're pretty fast. They have a lot of stuff going for them. They can take virtues on their champion. They can take some magic items. They're really not that bad. They're like a fine unit. I have seen competitive lists with them included, and I've seen it play well. So I can't really put them out of contention. I think we've got to have them as B. Their magical attacks, they've got reasonable stats, like some of the highest weapon skill in the game for a non-character. So I really can't see it being complete nonsense. It's just all right. So
I may have found the unit where I want to use my veto.
Okay.
I'm going to shit on them now. So those two units that you identified, that, Chosen Knights, which I've come to accept are actually pretty okay. Took me a while. I had to be beaten in the face with them a couple of times. But, Chosen Knights are good. Blood Knights, pretty good. Not mentioned Cold One Knights, also great. What have these things all got in common? Well, they're T4, and they've got a 2-up armor save. Grail Knights have a 3-up armor save, and my god, it is an expensive wound to lose when you just lose one to a fireball. And the odds aren't bad. Like, if you get hit with a fireball, you lose, I think, on average, just over 1, even with the ward save, which is real sad, because a Ruby Ring of Ruin costs 30 points, and a Grail Knight costs 38. These things, not only that, I think if that was sort of their only downside, I'm like, okay, sure. But they also take up the Pegasus Knights points. And on that basis alone, I'm not going to say they harm you. I'm not going to put them in F tier. I think that is too cruel. But I think for me, they're a very C tier unit, because I just don't see anything that they do better than just anything else. Like, I would take Peg Knights over them. Yes, the weapon skill 6 and the 2 attacks is really nice in the Grail Knights. But even the Peg Knights just have a volume of attacks that is going to, most of the time, equal the output of the Grail Knights. I just don't see them being, aside from being incredibly cool, I don't see them being useful. And you also can't take them in Exiles.
You can't take them in Exiles, no. For me, the Grail Knights have a point in that if you are taking Lady Elise, I think this is the best unit to put Lady Elise with.
Okay.
Because you can't put them with the Peg Knights, and if you want that unit in combat, you want it to be, a hard-hitting combat unit. So there's that. Honestly, I agree with you. Like, I know the Peg, like you're more likely going to take Pegasus Knights, but I've seen reasonable smart players put them in their army list and do okay with it. So.
But have they won less than 5 games out of 5 at their event? Because that, I think, is the bar we should set for Bretonian players.
The most recent time I saw it, they won the whole event.
So. That's pretty cool. And that's I like that, because I think Grail Knights are the sort of unit that we should see in lists more. I'm going to say that might be player skill over the unit being super. I don't think it harms you for taking it. I think it's just like, I struggle to see a reason to put it in the list.
Would he have won with Pegasus Knights in all the same situations? Yeah. Possibly. Like, I say it's probably likely he would have.
Yeah.
But it is what it is.
Sweet. Well, I have used my veto there to chuck them into C. And Anthony in chat says, unchivalrous answer, Ed. I think that's fair. I will take this moment to be a proud Bretonian hater. Get them out of the game until Pegasus Knights go away. Then they can come back. But speaking of, do you want to, in case people have lived under a rock, in case somehow the entire last 15 months has escaped everyone, do you want to explain what makes Pegasus Knights real good?
So I've had a bit of an evolution of my opinion about Pegasus Knights. But in general, Pegasus Knights are great because they're reasonably tough. They've got 2 wounds each. They're not that expensive for what you get. You are running, what are they these days? They are
55.
55 points, which is like pretty reasonable for a 2 wound model with 4-up, a toughness 4 and a 3-up save.
Yeah.
As we've said before, they have the ubiquitous Skirmisher and Fly 10. They're Swift Stride, so anything within a 19-inch radius around them is at risk. They've got Countercharge with 360 vision, which adds extra layers. They've got First Charge, which is a nice little bonus. Furious Charge gets them up to 2 attacks each on the charge, which is almost always. In your Grand Army list, they're getting the Ward Save. In your Exiles list, they are Stubborn and Veteran. The other key feature of the Exiles list is that they can take the banner of the Zealous Knight, which gives them Vanguard, which is a fairly big game changer. It lets them open up turn 1 charges, and more realistically, it forces your opponent to deploy very far away from their deployment zone, or less they risk being charged on turn 1. What more can you say about these? The big units of them with characters are some of the scariest units in the game. The little units of them are nice to have, like little flankers, harassers that are really tough to finish off outside of dedicated shooting. You can almost never engage these if you're not also a skirmisher, because they just fly around you. They don't have to make march block checks. They've got it all. Um, all of that said, I think the real power of this unit is just being a bodyguard for your Baron, your Duke, your Prophetess. Um, if they had almost none of these like offensive abilities, they would rate about the same for me because that's not really what they're there for. What they're there for is to provide a unit for your Baron, Duke, or Prophetess to inhabit.
Yeah, I actually I think I'm lower on Pegasus Knights than most people. I think if you couldn't attach the characters or use them to protect the characters, they'd maybe even fall to B tier for me because you're paying a lot per wound. It's 2 wounds. Monstrous Cav is normally 3. There are 3-ups. T4 and 3-up save is fine, but 2 wounds at that price point is quite expensive, and obviously they are very good. But I think if the threat of them wasn't so high, on their own they don't actually hit that hard.
No, they don't.
They a little bit limp noodle. And if you get them into multiple rounds of combat, oh, you're finished. When I was playing Dark Elves, I had a unit of 3 or 4. I think it was a unit of 4 charge my Cold One Knights. After the first round of combat, I had 3 Cold One Knights left, and they gave ground, and we just got into a slugfest where I had, in fact, I think it was only 2 left. I just had 2 Cold One Knights with the Banner of Harganeth slowly chipping through, killing like a Peg Knight a turn while they were doing nothing back. They really struggle in those protected combats. However, they do ferry the unstoppable characters, and then also come with just the best rules in the game in terms of the amount of mobility they have. So the only real question is, where in S tier would you like to put them?
I have them right at the bottom of S.
Okay.
If we're gonna rank it that way, you're gonna take these in every army.
Yep.
But the reason you're taking them is to further enable your Baron, your Duke, your Prophetess. So
yeah. So for me, I would put them above the Paladin, but also you're the one who plays a lot more Bretonian, so I'm happy to go with your opinion. Leave them there at the bottom of S tier. I think that's super reasonable. And that takes us to the. Isn't it weird that I think this is going to be the second highest rated cavalry unit?
no,
Mounted
I don't think so.
Yeoman. No, you don't think so?
I don't think it's weird. I don't think it's weird.
I
I mean, I think it's like they're just a reasonable unit.
Yeah. So Mounted Yeoman, importantly, as you've brought up already, can be taken in core in Exiles, and they are a light cavalry unit that can have reserve move, or I think has reserve move baked in. I don't think you even have to buy it if I remember correctly.
Yep, you just get it.
Which is wild, honestly. Like, that's such a bizarre rule to just have. I'm envious with over here with my Illyrian Reavers, which are some of the worst light cavalry to sit in core. However, just such a fantastic unit. You take it to bodyguard a wizard that wants to get in and out, or wants to cast spells out of range and then get into dispel range to stop your opponent hexing you to death. I think these things are fantastic. They're really solid, and I would put them, I want to say bottom of A, but maybe B tier is more likely just because you don't see them all that often. What do you think as a yeoman enjoyer?
I think that's a bit ambitious. I do use these.
Yeah.
They are more or less just for that, to give my reserve move to my wizard. They are a bit expensive compared to some of the other light cav options out there. For Exiles, them being core is a large boon. So, like, it's points you have to take anyway. So that's useful. I don't think I would ever use them in Grand Army for a lot of the same reasons that we've talked about other units here.
Takes points away from Pegasus Knights.
Yeah, among other things.
Yeah.
So I'm fine with this in B. I could put this in C. Include like being all inclusive. Like for Exiles, it's reasonable. For the other ones, it's not. So
sure, yeah. No, I think I'm happy with B. I think the reason that I want to rate them more highly is I haven't actually played with this unit myself, but I did play a chunk of Wood Elves where I had the reserve move Glade Riders. So in my head, I'm like, oh, obviously, you're going to move up, you're going to double Pillar of Fire. It's not quite the use of them, but they are still a very solid bunker for the wizard. You still get up to a 5-up armor save. I'm pretty sure you come with light armor native, and then you can buy the shield, which is a 5-up save on light cav is surprisingly tanky. Like it's more than you'd think in terms of like incidental firepower. It takes a little bit of effort to actually remove them, I find.
Yeah, with the wizard in there, they do get a little protection from magic missiles.
That's
But
true.
yeah.
Yeah, to be fair, I also take units of 8 on heavy on my my light cav as well, and you're probably looking at just a unit of 5 on the human.
I think 8 makes sense too,
Sure.
for a lot of reasons. But yeah.
Yeah, want to protect that wizard bunker. Fantastic. Yeah, so we get to the end of the cav, and the second best cav is not a knight at all. Love to see that for all the Bretonian enjoyers. And finally, we've got a pair of war machines, and I'm going to talk about the trebuchet because I know how much you like the bombard. So give you a chance to talk about your favorite one. The trebuchet is fine. It's one of the best stone throwers in the game. It comes in at strength 10, which is just real nice. There's not a lot to say about it other than, do you think that you need a stone thrower in your game? If yes, trebuchet. If no, no trebuchet. 100 points is pretty reasonable for it. Super tough. T7 with 3 wounds. 4 wounds in combat for the peasant crew. 4 attacks as well. So you actually might beat back, a unit of harpies that comes for you. Probably got a bit of a 50-50 chance there. Yeah, it's just a trebuchet. D3 plus 1 wounds on the center of the bombardment. I don't really have much else to put on there. The fact that it's only leadership 6 kind of sucks, but it's a war machine. That's pretty much what you expect. I think B tier for me in the trebuchet.
That's probably B is fine, I think. For all the reasons you just said. The minimum range is a bit of a hamper. It being peasant levies can be a bit of a hamper. Leadership 6 as well. Not being able to move it hurts a little bit. Otherwise, yeah, it's fine. Like you said, 4 wounds makes it so sometimes they don't actually kill you in one turn. So if you make your break check, you're doing okay. Yeah, that's more or less it. I think I would have it a hint lower than that, but I'm fine with it being there.
Sure. Do you want to tell us about the actually good war machine then?
Sure. Yeah. The first thing I want to say is, much like the Briggins, this is a Border Prince's Bombard, so by default, it's one of my favorite things in the game. What can't you say about this? It's like it's got just about everything you want out of a war machine.
Yeah.
It's got toughness 7, which is very strong. It's got light armor, which you can roll on ranged and melee. So woe behold all those fireballers out there when you roll 6s. You've got leadership 7. You're not a peasant, which has implications. You are levies, which means they don't get to use your general's leadership, but so be it. You have your own unique misfire table, which to this day I have to show people because it's like, yes, it does still shoot on a 6.
Because it's better than every other misfire table in the game.
By far, for no particular reason, yeah. The misfire table, it's fairly cheap at 100 points. It's got reasonable range, AP 3, strength 8, D3 plus 1 wounds, armor rating 2. So if you roll that 6, it's no armor. Yeah. What are you going to do, right? The grape shot is particularly deadly too with armor bane 2. So again, if you roll 6s, that's a nasty one.
Do you get the armor bane 2 on the grape shot? Is that?
No, that's not true. No. The
okay.
armor bane 2 is just for the main gun. That's right.
That's fine. I was like, oh god, this is even better than I thought.
It's regardless. I don't think you're grape shotting much with this thing anyway.
No,
the cannonball is just too good.
Yeah. This is arguably the best cannon in the game. The only argument you could make is the fact that Empire cannons can take engineers, so they're more reliable. It's real good. It's real good. And also, if you are playing Exiles and you've got Bombards, you've got pressure so that they have to come to you, and then you definitely get the charge, which is like the worst case scenario when you're playing against the Bretonian list. I think the reason for me, and I don't know if you'd agree, that Exiles is the best version of Bretonians, if you play it that way, is that you have the pressure to make them come to you, which means that you are always going to get the charges you want.
This combined with some of the other pieces you can take in your army, like the Pegasus Knights, forcing them to deploy off of their deployment edge, is completely zoning them out from getting to your bombards quickly. If you put these near a forest, they have a Green Knight watching over them.
Yeah, of course.
That's huge. And then the main one, the Falcon Horn, means a lot of those big flying nasties take an extra turn to get to you. So you get one more round of shooting with your bombards at their big thing if that's what you're going for.
Yeah.
So it's set up. I think the setup for the Bombard in a Bretonian army is perhaps like like the best war machine you can get in the game,
Yeah.
with the possible exception of a Doom Diver. But it's there's not much else to say. This is for me. This is an A. It's a high A. You can make XL's army list that don't include this. And obviously you can't take this at all in the other two armies.
Sure.
In my XL armies, I'm taking this every time, but I think there's valid reasons to take something else instead. So I think it's just below an S.
Sure. I can't disagree with that. I think that's a solid argument. Yeah, no, Bombards are real good. They're so if I see a Bretonian player that's Grand Army, I think, great, I've got a chance. They're maybe not going to get the Falcon Horn off. I get to go first. I get to position my dragon aggressively. I can snack on some Knights of the Realm. If I play against an Exiles list, I'm like, cool. So they've got all of the layered reliability. What the hell am I going to do? Be sad is the answer, usually. I should start playing armies that are just good into Bretonians, given how often you see them at tournaments. That's probably the answer to that. But yeah, no, incredible unit. And yeah, I think top of A feels pretty solid. They sit sort of 1A, 1B with the Prophetess, because you can only take them in opposite army lists. So who can say which is better? Because we've got no way of comparing. Fantastic. Well, do you think there's anything there that we need to move around, or are we pretty happy with that as a tier list?
Looks right to me. Yeah. Everything I want to be up is up. Everything I want to be down is down. Yeah.
One of the healthiest spreads I think we've seen, just in terms of amount of units. Don't look at which units are where. The fact that all of the characters are at the top, all of the cavalry's at the bottom. But if you just look at the number of units, it looks real good. Like that makes sense to me, right? But yeah, no, thank you very much for joining me.
Cheers, it was a pleasure, and yeah. Good luck everyone with
Bretonia. yeah, that's all there is to say. It's like, well, enjoy playing against it. I feel like I was wanting to convert up the undead Bretonian army. I just never got round to it. Maybe post WTC. That'll be something to put on my list. But I'm a newfound undead enjoyer after playing some of those teams tournament that I stepped into to fill a game. So, too many OP armies for me to pick from. How could I possibly choose which one to go for?
I'm thinking undead myself. I've got some new SDLs that I'm looking to look into for some zombie pirates. So we'll see what happens.
What version of undead are you going to play those as?
Vampire Counts. Probably just a generic list. I do hope one day we'll see a Vampire Coast army list, but maybe a year or two from now we'll talk about that. But
yeah, I'm in the position where I'm feeling good about Old World, and I feel like everything that I want to happen will happen, but just over a timescale of like 8 or 10 years. But I'm not in a rush, so I'm just like, hell yeah, all of the things I want to happen probably will eventually. So I feel pretty positive about Vampire Coast. I don't know if I feel positive about them in the 2020s, but I'll still be playing in 2035, so who knows?
Fair enough. Yeah, me too. If I'm alive, I'll be there.
Well, yeah, that's if we're all alive, but that's to take the podcast in a slightly more depressing direction. Thank you all for watching. If you have enjoyed, like the video, leave a comment, all of that YouTube good stuff. If you want to support the channel, you can. There is a membership below. Join the Discord. That is not membership only, and there will be this tier list posted in the tier list channel on Discord if you want to try your hand at it, if you think that we're massively wrong about